Welcome. It is no accident that you have found your way to the Release the Genie podcast. What would you do with 3 wishes? And what if you discovered that you are in fact that very genie that could grant them? Well, join us now as we discover who our next genie is as we listen in and learn the stories of triumph, inspiration, and passion with some very special guests. And now, without further delay, your host of the Release the Genie podcast, Mr. Paul Rogers.
So good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are tuning in from. Time zones can be very difficult, and I have managed to actually sort myself out to get these guys in the correct time zone. It is the lovely Shawn and Jen. I'm just going to do a very quick intro and then I'm going to let them just take it from there. So first of all, they had a life reimagined in 2018. They sold their financial services business. Boom. I mean, for most people, that would be, yeah, thank you. That's the end of the story. But then they went in as a family to actually not just estate flip houses. We're talking these guys, when they get it, they give it the TLC, the sparkle. They are experts at what they do. And more importantly, they love what they do. So if you are in the market for that, these people will make it amazing. Not only that, and there's a great phrase which I just have to borrow, which I think was wonderful. You can't put lipstick on a pig, which I just thought was, that has me in hysterics each time. Not only that, but they have a wonderful radio station called Hope Radio, and it is purposely an antidote to the negative media out there. I have been very lucky to appear on it, and I've invited them back. It's a bit like having Ricky Gervais come back and do the Globes. So I have no idea where this is going to go. So buckle in because I'll put my seatbelt on too. So Shawn and Jen, how are you doing?
We are doing awesome.
Great.
You know, like right now we're in California, and for one of the first times in weeks, we can see the sunshine, blue skies. The air is clear and clean. We've been inundated with fires, if you hadn't heard. And so, you know, there's just something magical about having clean, fresh air.
No, I mean, I know that when we were trying to schedule earlier in the year, that was a big concern. So I'm delighted that that's cleared up, and you're back into the California dream, in which everyone around the rest of the world immediately thinks. So tell us a little bit about yourselves. I kind of set the scene. So take it from there, guys.
Yeah, so we're obviously husband and wife team. Jen and I have been married for 26 years. We dated for 5 years before we got married. So effectively, we've been together for 31 years, high school sweethearts. And we live in Northern California. And we have 4 boys, you know. Our oldest is 24 and our youngest is 14. And so we had 2 real quick. Oldest is 24, next is 23. And then we backed off for 6.5 years and had 2 more, 16 and 14. And our kids work with us in our home remodeling business. And, you know, we're just happy to be here and happy to talk with you, and, you know, happy to talk about living a life that you want to live and constructing it the way you want to live it.
You know, to be honest, there's something very special, I think, about actually being able to involve your family, because it's like TV. They say, don't work with kids and animals, but how is it actually working with you, with your family? Is it, has it pushed you together, or how is that?
What would you say?
Yeah, I think it's brought us closer, but we've always been a really tight family. So we don't have a lot of family like outside of our immediate family. So we've always been our circle's been small. And so our kids have always been a part of our circle. So just including them in this home project idea that we came up with was a given. Like, we knew that we wanted to spend more time with them, vacation with them. And that's just how we kind of ended up involving them all. And they all have different kind of like specialties too. So it worked out.
My oldest is a lot like me, so there was a little bit of nervousness in terms of working together, because he and I did work together once before. He worked with me in my financial services practice.
The two older ones did.
Yes, both of them did.
Yeah.
But my oldest is the only one that wrote on a notepad when he was working with me that he would not work and he would get paid for it. He actually wrote that physically out on a notepad.
We still have it. We still have it.
So when we decided to invite him to participate in our home remodeling business, there was a little anxiety regarding that. But quite honestly, to answer your question, he has risen. He's our project manager, and that kid has made me more proud in the last 2 years that we've been doing this than ever before. And so it's awesome. It really is a privilege to be able to work with your kids. Some days are spectacular. Some days, maybe not so much. But the reality of it is to stay together as a tight family, to teach him about business, to see him blossom and bloom has been awesome.
Oh yeah, it's been great.
I mean, it's so nice because, people talk about, the work-life balance, but, what you've been able to do is sort of kind of put it all together. And I get it. You don't want to live in each other's pockets, but at least you see each other every day. And
I think that was probably the most important thing for me, is that I wanted to create a life to where the boys were always around us, that they didn't get married and move to New York or, Louisiana or wherever. And then we just kind of never saw them as much. So like Shawn's mom lives in Wyoming. We don't see her very often. So it's like, I wanted to create a life that they're just always here. Like, they're our kids. We're only here for a short amount of time, and I want them here as long as I'm here. So
no, it's beautiful. And, in this age, and when we're October 2020 and we're still stuck in Coronaville, and then being able to have your family around you, I think is so important at this time, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
It really has been. And I think that, our goals go beyond that, because we've really advocated that our kids be entrepreneurs, that they be business owners, that they have time flexibility, because, we see so many different families that, live a life where they can only get together during the holidays, or maybe it's only 1 week per year. And so, like, for example, this year, we've several different occasions gone down to Mexico. We have a place down in Mexico, and we brought all 4 boys with us. And like, we don't want that to change. We were talking with them the last time we were down there, and we went, man, imagine what this is going to be like 10 years from now. Imagine if you all are in businesses where you've constructed your life in such a way that you have the time flexibility, that June is always the month that together as a family, we're going to spend in Mexico. We're going to have grandkids down there. We're going to have this, we're spouses, and all that good stuff. So I think it's purposeful on our side, because we do not have a large family. We really have my mom and no other family. So our kids are really, really important to us that way.
No, it's wonderful what you're saying. And I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people. So I know it's not all rainbows and sunshine and rainbows, as the great Rocky Balboa said, or Frank's, you know what I mean. And so what was kind of like your aha moment? What was your release the Genie moment?
Relative to the home flipping business, or just in general?
However you want to play it.
Well, I think for me, the release the Genie moment really was this year. I think that, I've always been a go-getter. I've always been a, let's make things happen. And I think I didn't really appreciate how much weight that had created. Jen has always been so awesome. She's the one that actually scheduled in the fun. She scheduled in all of the activities that we had. She made sure, because I left to my own devices, I would have been a workaholic. I'd probably still be in the financial services business. So, to work with my kids, and then coming into this year and dealing with COVID, I really think that COVID is one of those life experiences, life events that one will never forget. You always remember where you were when the Challenger exploded. You remember where you were when September 11th happened. And COVID's going to be one of those, man, that was a crazy year. And so for us to create something new, the Hope Radio podcast, the podcast that we co-host, it's the first time ever in my life that I've been able to feel like I'm connecting with my gifting and maybe my purpose, and to be doing it with Jen, which, if you told her she was going to be on radio every day, like she would have smacked you upside the head and told you to shut your mouth.
I say no every day. He's like, we got to go do a podcast. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
So, everyone should feel especially privileged that we have managed to get Jen here smiling and looking fairly comfortable. So,
I've said no to at least half a dozen already. So
there we go.
Yes.
But I think that moment where, like you can really come alongside others, we did that this year to help people that were maybe feeling hopeless, because we've been through a lot in the 31 years that we've been together. We've been through trials and tribulations. We've been through deep valleys and mountaintop highs. And we've realized oftentimes the valleys would lead to the mountaintop. And so we wanted to make sure people didn't lose hope, that they didn't get discouraged. So it was born out of the pandemic from an altruistic purpose of just coming alongside others. Yet I think the biggest benefactors of the whole thing have been us, because we've had front row seats to, almost 100 different stories of hope. Yeah. And so through this whole pandemic process and frustration and civil unrest and election year and stuff, we've been able to really get a recharge every time we have one of these conversations with somebody. And it makes us count our blessings. It makes us stay in gratitude, and it makes us look forward to the next opportunity of talking with somebody.
It's lovely because, I'm sensing it's like your flow. That's your creative streak. So once you tap into that energy, it's kind of difficult to turn off again. I think
that's especially true. For me, being in financial services, let me just say, as a financial advisor, you never make people happy, really. Even if you made them money, it wasn't enough. And if you didn't make them money and the investment turned south, then you were the one to blame. So it was an industry that I spent 22 years in, where I really never felt appreciated, and I didn't really feel validated. It didn't feel like I was living a purposeful life doing that. Sure, I was helping people, but it didn't feel that way. So this is actually the first time doing this podcast is the first time I've actually connected with that. And so, I think, I drag Jen to it because I need that after 22 years of feeling the opposite, but I also feel like we're doing good. I feel like we're helping people. And so that's important.
No, making an impact, and I can tell you are making an impact, and so I know that a lot of other people who will be watching this can also vouch for that as well. So I'm going to lead into what was one of your moments which setbacks which you had to overcome, which may have actually linked into what you've just been saying.
Yeah.
There's a long list. What setbacks do we want to talk about? Oh my gosh.
All of them.
Yeah. Well, in the financial services career, I mean, we dealt with everything. I mean, during the Great Recession, Jen and I had challenges and problems there. I mean, I've dealt with everything from personal bankruptcy to almost losing the business, to having 6 of my employees, when we moved to a new location, decide that they were going to stay and try to do what I was doing themselves, to, having the IRS chase us for back taxes, to, I mean, all kinds of stuff. I mean, I really think that God, allows certain things to happen because it's preparing you for the future. And Jen and I keep saying, man, we must have a crazy destiny, because the stuff that we've been through, has just been really challenging. But quite honestly, I think that perspective has changed a bit. Hearing some of the stories of people that we've had on our podcast makes some of the challenges that we've been through seem smaller in comparison. And so I think that's actually been good. But we're home flippers in the midst of a pandemic. So the biggest, most obvious problem is, right now as we sit, everything that we have, so we still have 3 houses that we're doing actively on. We're trying to work on our own build, but everything across the board has been delayed. We've had problems with architects and engineers. with regard to those delays. And then across the board, we're seeing anywhere from a 20 to a 50% increase in supply costs, hard material costs relative to concrete, metal. Many of these factories were shut down during COVID. Now there's a surge of demand. And so pricing, and then we've got tariff issues with China. So from a business perspective, this has been a very challenging and uncertain year. And I had a friend share with me that she thinks that God prompted me to do this podcast when he did, because he knew we would need it based on what we were dealing with. And I think that's a true statement.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I totally agree.
You're absolutely right, because when there's a bad, there's always an accompanying good as well. It's just that a lot of people miss that because they're so focused on looking at the bad. So I think you're right, and I think it's a very astute spot by yourself. So, bravo. Tell me, what's one of your favorite quotes or mantras? Because this is going to be gold.
Ooh, what's yours?
You want me to answer first?
Yeah, go for it.
So, I mean, I when I thought about this question, the only thing that really came to me is that.
Oh wait, did you get questions beforehand that you didn't share with me?
Well, he shared with me some of the questions that he was gonna ask. So yeah,
this is great. I love a little bit of friction. I can just
yeah. I'm the one who likes to be very prepared and ready, and he wings everything. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, there was questions. I feel like I didn't do my homework. So yeah, it's all you now.
I'm guilty as charged.
Wow.
Guilty as charged.
Wow.
I'm so sorry. I apologize. No. So ever since I was 19, I read about Tiger Woods, and I was reading about his mom and how she had approached mentoring him, training him, preparing him for ultimately what he was going to become. And she had referenced this term called Kaizen. And Kaizen is represented by two kanji symbols. It's a Japanese word, and it represents continuous ongoing improvement in all aspects of your life. Yeah. And it's always, since that point been my mantra. I am always trying to evolve, always trying to be a better dad, being a better father, be a better husband. Clearly, I have to work on that because I didn't get further questions in advance.
Room for improvement.
I got room for improvement, yes.
I'm throwing you a life
yes,
boy.
Yes. I need to work on my planning.
Yes.
But I think that's, I chase that. I chase uncomfortable and evolving and growing. And, you can never really, I think, reach your potential unless you're constantly in uncomfortable situations that cause you to grow. And so I've certainly had our fair share of uncomfortable situations in the last year or so. I think everyone has in the midst of the pandemic. But what would you say? What's your mantra?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I have so many little mantras. Like I have be the light, like always be the positive one, be the happy one, be the fun one in any situation. Just be the light. What else do I have?
You're really inspiring.
Yeah,
you really are.
I have so many. I mean, never give up. That's always something, that I tell my kids, like quitting is not an option. Never give up. You'll figure it out. Just keep going one day at a time. Just breathe, I'm very yoga. So
no, to be honest. And especially the light, because, at the moment, if you were to cast this time period, everyone would say it's quite dark.
Yeah.
But so at this point, if you're able, for example, Hope Radio and Light, I mean, you can see that you can see your creative tendencies are sort of, you're creative people. Yeah. You just don't know it yet. So tell me, where you mentioned you're working on 3 houses. Is that what's sort of taking up your time at the moment?
Well, I think the biggest amount of time that we've been spending lately has been on the actual podcast. We're typically doing two interviews a day. So we'll wake up, we'll usually work out, usually head to our office where we do the podcasting at about 10 o'clock. We'll have an interview at 11. We'll have an interview at noon, and then we'll come back home. And then in the in-between, We do have 3 houses that we're working on, and these are major renovations. And so we've got contractors that have been vetted, contractors that we've worked with for now a year and a half. And, they're taking the heavy load of actually working on the houses. These houses right now are just going through framing. They're just going through, some of them have just been through demo and destruction. So they're not at a point where Jen makes them pretty. She's an excellent designer. She really has a great eye for what's current and what the house needs. She'll actually sit in the house, and she does this alone. She'll sit in the house and she'll let it speak to her, she calls it. And so she takes into consideration the era of the home, the vibe of the home, what it feels like to sit in it. And she'll start to then brainstorm or plan how she's going to decorate
I then
it.
create a dream board, and basically it's everything that I saw in this ugly house that is going to make it pretty. So
now that stage is coming soon, but we're not quite there yet. So in the relative to 6 to 9 months of construction, she's going to be dealing with a lot of that pretty phase, toward the end of this year or beginning of next year.
Yeah.
So,
and it's my favorite thing to do. Like, I didn't know that I was talented at it until I did the first one, and I had everyone and their brothers and sisters want me to design their houses. And I was like, whoa, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just like, the houses speak to me and it just tells me what to do. And I just do what it says. So it's been interesting.
No, and to be honest, and you're not saying something which is not so woo-woo, because, there's channeling, there's all sorts of ways of tapping into a creative flow. And, I certainly get the overwhelming impression that, you are actually very much free spirits, which is why mostly the financial service industry.
What's my shirt say?
Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah.
I'm with the hippies.
There you go. See, and I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm with the genies next time. So
yes, there you go. I'm like the total gypsy.
No. Well, we can do hybrids. They do it in cars. We can do hybrids with you. So it's okay. So I now come to my favorite part of the show, because I get to ask the genies, as a plural. First time I've had 2.
What?
I know. We are breaking all previous records, traditions, whatever you want to call it. And so I still unfortunately only get my 3 wishes, because that's just how the genie rule goes. So are you ready, guys?
Yeah.
Ready.
Okay. So what was the best advice you have ever received?
Ooh.
What would you say? You want to go first?
No, you go first. I got to think.
I think the best advice that I ever received was from one of my mentors early on in my financial services career. He was talking about the attributes of success, and he said, realistically, bar none, the most important attribute of success was perseverance. And I never forgot that, and I lived it out. In financial services, when you begin that career, they'll often give you a profile test that'll tell you how successful you are at maybe becoming a good financial advisor. And so on this test, I scored the second highest score that you could, but I learned later that meant only 11% of the people that got that score would actually be in the business 4 years later. So that really was a testament to perseverance. I looked across the board and saw people that, had different personalities than me, had different intellect than me, had different goals than me. And across the board, the only attribute of success that they shared was they never gave up. They persisted. And so I've tried to live that way. Persistence is I think, the key. So he said, as long as you stay persistent, you'll accomplish what you want to accomplish. But so yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what I think. I think mine would probably be to just never judge another human, because you don't know their story. Everyone's got a story, and I just feel like this world is so crazy that you're quick to judge just by appearance or by whatever, and you just don't know their story. So I think that's probably the best advice, is to just be kind and love people. So
be a kind human.
Right? Be a kind human. Kindness matters.
There's that saying, do you want to be right or do you want to be kind? And
Yeah.
I think, and I do believe that if everyone took that on board, we would
Yes.
be in a very different place.
Very different.
So, and that's kind of one of the big reasons why you do what you do with your
Mhm.
podcast, to put that out there. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, well, that's fantastic. I'm going to move on to number 2 now. My
All
second.
right.
Here we go. I think you warmed up quite nicely. I'm warmed up. So, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh.
Man, I think for me, one of the struggles that I have is that I'm so forward looking.
Mhm.
Like when you think about like time, like I don't spend a lot of time looking or thinking about the past. You know, in
Yeah.
terms of my conscious mind state, I'm always thinking about the future. I would say probably 95% of my mental capacity is thinking about what's upcoming, and only about 5% of it is relative to anything that's happened in the past. The problem is that that doesn't leave a lot of room for presence. And so I think, you know, the advice that I would give my younger self is enjoy the journey. You know, stop
Yeah.
fixating so much on where you're wanting to go, and stop and smell the roses and enjoy the journey. Like right now, this is a challenging year. Enjoy the challenge, enjoy the frustration, enjoy the uncertainty. You know, like I could honestly see us looking back in a few years laughing at how stressed we might have been over small things that 5 years from now don't even matter in the big picture, you know. And I think Jen has been so good. She's such a great compliment to me that way, because you know, like I'm a dreamer, I'm a goal setter, I'm always looking out into the future, and she helps to grab my feet, pull me down, and ground me in the present moment. She's our chief fun operator. She is our glue that holds everything together, and she consistently reminds me to be present, live the moment. So I tell myself to enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, I think I would tell myself to not care what everybody else thinks. Like, give myself more grace, not care what anyone thinks, and just do life the way that I want to do life, and get rid of all the static noise. Because as you're growing up as a girl, like that's all that matters is what other people think. And as an adult, it really doesn't matter. But you put so much emphasis on it as a younger child, and it just kind of like makes you crazy. You compare, and you know, it's not a good thing. So I think I would change that.
I think that's great advice,
Yeah.
even more so now in the age of social media and younger teens and comparison and lives and etc.
Right. Yeah.
You know, there's a zillion platforms now, which so it's and there's a lot of people struggling and peddling faster and faster to maintain that image.
Yeah.
So I think what you both said, which is actually spending more time in the present, and also then actually just not caring, just actually engage in the present, stop worrying about it. I think again, I can see as a real good complementing of views there. So good work, guys. What a team. We got off to a bit of a rocky start, but we're back on track. I love it. So the third wish is, do you have a habit or an attribute which then a habit would attributes to your success?
I do.
Go ahead.
Oh,
I would say like my biggest habit or attribute I'm a planner. I'm a to-do lister. I'm a write it out. I'm a planner. I'm very structured. I'm very, I don't skip a beat. I know what I'm going to eat. I know what I'm going to do as a workout. I know what I'm going to design a house to be like. I'm very like just a planner. So I really think that nothing gets left behind or forgotten because I'm so tunnel vision with everything I do. So I'm totally ADD. So I'm all over here, but with life and with responsibilities, I'm like this, like there's no way you can, derail me. So I think structure and planning for me.
Yeah, structure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on then, champ. What's yours?
Well, it's funny that I think her strength is my weakness, and my strength is maybe her weakness.
Yeah.
I'm about taking action. You know, it's like I may not have everything figured out, but to me, the taking action part is the biggest part of what success I've had. If I have an idea, I explore it. I take action on it. You know, like for example, when I sold the financial services practice, I had no idea what we were going to do. I talked to Jen. She thought we were retired.
I was like,
she
yay, we're moving to Mexico.
She thought we were sailing off into the sunset. And, you know, here I was at the time, 47. I'm like, listen, we did all right selling the practice, but I'm 47. I don't have enough money to retire for the next 50 years.
Well, he just didn't want to. He doesn't sit still. So
I have a hard time.
That's the real reason.
I have a hard time just being idle. And so, to me, you know, one of the first things that she's all, what do you want to do? And I'm like, let's go flip a house. You know, like we had no idea how to flip a house, but I figured that I would learn, you know? And so like a lot of people would be intimidated by that, but I bought a house. We just jumped in and started to make it happen. So I think the biggest thing for me is I don't let excuses or my lack of knowledge prevent me from taking action on something that I'm passionate about or an idea that I have. And I think that that's one of the biggest reasons that I have had some success. You know, I think many people fail because they never begin. Yeah. And I think the beginning process then leads to other opportunities to continue to grow, and it gets you excited about it, et cetera. So that, I think that's my biggest attribute of success.
And, you know, you're so right. You know, Wayne Gretzky says you miss 100% of the shots you never take. And I think actually, again, with the structure, with the passion, I mean, they're both essential attributes. If you were to put a to-do list, you came second highest, but I think in your financial, but if there was a test for the other one, you go to the top of the class. Okay. So that's,
well, thank you for that.
No, I mean, to be honest, it's wonderful. And so I hope everyone has had as much fun as us. As I said, when we started, I had no idea where this is going to go, which is why it's going to be so fantastic. Where can people get hold of you? Where do you guys hang out?
Well, on social media for our podcast, which we co-host, that's the Hope Radio Podcast. So you can find it on Instagram and Facebook at Hope Radio Podcast. And
that's it, right?
Yeah. Well, let's plug also the flipping business. That's Live, Salt, and Stone. So we're on Instagram and Facebook at Live, Salt, and Stone. So it's
check it out.
Yeah, that's we've got.
It's beautiful homes.
Yeah, I agree. But that's where all of our homes that we flipped in the past are, and anything that we're working on. Jen, through her Instagram, feeds into that website, so you can keep up to date on the progress that we're making on those 3 remodels that we're doing.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And you know, I think people are going to be really interested to see how this plays out, because I can personally vouch for the work you're doing on Hope Radio, and if passion were the only indicator, we know that you'd be there. So I'd like to say a really, really big thank you to both of you, taking time out of your busy time zone and coordinating with mine. The reason I say this is because I had a debacle, but we got there in the end. So thank you both very much. You are the first 2 genies I've had on the show, and I would safely say I'm never going to do it again. I'll never do that. No. So no, I mean, did you guys have fun? That's the main thing.
Yes. We had a great time, and I appreciate what you're doing. I mean, I think that this is a great opportunity for people to share and connect and get ideas and brainstorm and come alongside one another. And so thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about our message and our story. And, I wish you all the success and all the luck in the future with your endeavors.
And I do have another mantra.
Oh, go for it. Yes.
If it's not fun, I'm not doing it. So I am having fun. That's why I'm here.
I think, if in Hollywood you do mic drop at that point. So
it's true. That's how I live life. If it's not fun, I'm not doing it. So
to be honest,
And hey, let me just say, from somebody that's tried to get her to do what she don't want to do, it's not worth the effort.
No, no means no to me. So it's a hard no.
And I know that Shawn could attest to the hardness of that no. So
She when she puts her foot down, she is one tough cookie. I'll tell you that.
I mean,
and I like that. Like, see, you know, if you're a strong man, you need an extra strong woman to deal with you. And so,
yeah, that's right.
There you are. Well, in the scheme of things, there is no one greater than the Genie. So you've risen to the top. And I'd like to say a big thank you once again. And to the audience, I hope you had a really good time. You can tell the energy was really good. And I like you guys to go out there and find your Genie. So thank you very much and goodbye for now.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap. You have been listening to yet another episode of the Release the Genie podcast with host Paul Rogers. Be sure to follow Paul on the LinkedIn platform and learn more of Paul's resources at www.takeactionacademy.ca. And until next time, as always, be mindful and be sure to release your Genie. Thanks for listening.